We can easily calculate the determinants of these matrices by just considering the elements on the diagonal. If we multiply these elements, they yield the determinant of each matrix. All of these matrices are upper triangular, which means that all the entries below the diagonal are 0, and non-zero elements can only be seen above or on the diagonal. This happens because by using the cofactor expansion method, every time we write the cofactors, they multiply an element on the diagonal with the prior elements on the diagonal. So for upper triangular matrices and also lower triangular matrices, we can calculate the determinant of the matrix by multiplying the elements on the diagonal. Now try to find the determinant of this matrix. It is upper triangular, but one of the elements on the diagonal is 0, and multiplying all the elements on the diagonal gives 0. In this example, these two vectors are linearly dependent. The determinant being 0 shows that at least two of these vectors that make up the square matrix are linearly dependent. Let me remind you that the determinant is non-zero only when all the vectors are linearly independent. Geometrically speaking, only 3 independent directions are present. The force vector does not add a new direction, so the shape lies in the 3-dimensional subspace instead of filling the whole 4-dimensional space. As a result, its 4-dimensional volume is 0, and so its determinant is 0. So when we have an n by n square matrix, we can use a process called Gaussian Elimination to transform the matrix into an upper triangular matrix. In this process, there are 3 possible row operations, 3 possible elementary row operations that we can use to do so. We can swap 2 rows, we can multiply a row by a real number c, or we can add the multiple of a row to another row. But the question is that how these row operations affect the determinant of the square matrix. We need to know this because in the process of changing a matrix to an upper triangular one, we need to keep track of changes of the determinant and consider them. Take this matrix as an example. The determinant is -1. If we change the first and second row, we get this matrix. The determinant becomes 1. Now, take this matrix with determinant -1. If we swap the first and the second row, the determinant becomes 1. If we swap the second and the third rows of the original matrix, again the determinant yields 1. It seems that swapping rows changes the sign of the determinant, as if we are multiplying it by -1. Now take the same matrices and let's check what happens if we multiply a row by a real number c. In the first example, it seems that multiplying a row by c multiplies the determinant by the same constant. The same thing happens for the 3 by 3 determinants. It gets multiplied by the same constant. So we might want to guess that multiplying a row by a constant c somehow scales the determinant to the same constant. The last elementary row operation is adding the multiple of a row to another one. In the first example, if we add twice the second row to the first row, the determinant doesn't change. Also, if we perform such an operation for the second matrix, again, the determinant doesn't change. So it seems that adding a multiple of a row to another row is like multiplying the determinant by 1. So the effect of each row of these row operations can be characterized by multiplying the determinant by a number, either -1, a constant c, or 1. There is a very important property for determinants that the determinant of the product of 2 square matrices is equal to the product of the determinant of the 2 matrices. Now, if we can characterize each row operation by a matrix called E, the determinant of E acts as the multiples we came up with earlier. These kinds of matrices are called elementary matrices, which are obtained by performing one elementary row operation on the identity matrix. For example, in the first example we talked about earlier, the row swap operation can be carried out using this square matrix. Matrix E is elementary because it can be derived from the identity matrix by just one elementary row operation, which is swapping the first and the second row. As a result, the determinant of the matrix after an elementary row operation is equal to the product of the determinant of the elementary matrix for swapping rows and the determinant of the original matrix itself. Now take this matrix. What is the elementary matrix by which we can change the first and the third row? This row fixes the second row of the original matrix. For the first row of the resulting matrix, we need the elements on the third line of the original matrix. And for the last row of the new matrix, we want the first elements of the original matrix. We can also assign this matrix for swapping the first and second row. The determinant of both of these matrices we added on the left is -1, and it shows why swapping rows changes the sign of the determinant. Now, how can we write the elementary matrix so that the first row of the original matrix is multiplied by a constant c? All we need to do is multiply the first row of the identity matrix by the desired constant. It's clear that the determinant of this elementary matrix is the constant c. What about these row multiplications for this 3 by 3 square matrix? Again, we just need to multiply the desired row in the identity matrix with the constant, and the determinant is c itself. So this elementary row operation changes the determinant by constant c. The last elementary row operation is adding a multiple of a row to another row. For example, in this one, we want to add twice row 2 to row 1. For the elementary matrix of this elementary row operation, we need to keep the identity elements on the diagonal, but add the multiple of the desired row to the row we wish to change. In this example, we add twice row 2 to row 1. What about these three-dimensional square matrices? Can you find the corresponding elementary matrix to the row operation? For all of them, the diagonal elements are kept 1. In the first one, we add 3 times row 3 of the identity matrix to row 1. For the second one, we subtract twice row 1 from row 2. And finally, in the last one, we add row 1 of the identity matrix to row 3. By these single elementary row operations on the identity matrix, we form these elementary matrices. All of these elementary matrices are either upper or lower triangular, and their determinant can be calculated by multiplying all the elements on the diagonal, which makes the determinant 1. So in the process of changing the original matrix to a triangular matrix, we don't need to keep track of these operations. In the process of Gaussian elimination, we can see each elementary row operation as an elementary matrix acting on the left in each step of the process. In the last step, we have an upper triangular matrix, for which we can find a determinant easily by multiplying the elements on the diagonal. We can also use this property for the determinant of the product of matrices to find a relationship between the determinant of the resulting matrix and the determinant of the original matrix we started with, which gives us this expression. Calculate the determinant of the upper triangular matrix by just multiplying the elements on the diagonal of the matrix and divide by the product of the determinants of the matrices associated with the elementary row operations, which are either 1, -1, or a constant number. Let's do what we said for this 3 by 3 matrix. In the first step, we subtract twice row 1 from row 2 to eliminate the first element of the second row. Then we subtract row 1 from row 3 to eliminate the first element of the third row. Then add twice row 2 to row 3 to eliminate the last element that doesn't let our matrix to be an upper triangular matrix. And you can see that the matrix has become upper triangular. These are the matrices and the elementary matrices we used on the original matrix on each step. The determinants of all of these elementary matrices are 1, which makes our calculations a lot easier, as you will see. We can easily find the determinant of the upper triangular matrix to be 9. And finally, by taking the determinants of all the elementary matrices into account, which are all 1, we can find the determinant of A to be 9 as well. Pay attention to that. We just used one of the row operations that has the determinant of 1, and this operation is the one we don't even need to keep track of. Now, let's find the determinant of this 4 by 4 matrix. Swap the first and the second row. Let's double the second row to see the effect of multiplying one of the rows with a constant. Eliminate below the first pivot, eliminate below the second pivot, and finally eliminate below the third pivot, and now we have an upper triangular matrix. The determinant of this matrix can be calculated by just multiplying the elements on the diagonal, and as you see, just for the swap and multiplication of a constant, we have non-unit determinants. Taking all the determinants of the elementary matrices into account, we can finally find the determinant of the original matrix to be minus 16.